Yeah.
Hello everybody, good morning. This is Pusaras, your English teacher. So I'm going to tell you about the materials we are going to share for about 1 year. And then we will discuss for 9 chapters actually, from 3.1 to 3.9. Okay, and then in the 3.1 we are going to study about how to introduce ourselves, or in this PowerPoint the title is all about me. Okay, yeah, as usual, if we want to introduce ourselves, usually there are some points, but before we go to the chapter 1, I would like to tell you about what is the content of chapter 1. So here we can see number 1 is about asking personal information, and then mentioning personal information, and then the last, as usual, in this PowerPoint made by Pathway to English. So this, I'd like to tell you at the beginning that this PowerPoint is actually not mine, because I use the material taken from the English Pathway from Atlanta publisher, but it's no matter. And then the next slide is about what information do we usually share when we are going to introduce ourselves. Okay, number 1, as you are familiar with actually, number 1 is about name. Name itself sometimes is divided into several. For example, you have what we call family name, and then nickname, and complete name. Okay, but usually in Bahasa Indonesia we use the first name to call somebody. For example, my name is Puji Saraswati, so you can call me biasanya with Ibu Puji. But in English it is not similar, because if you use the address Messias, so you have to use the family name, so you can call me Ibu Saraswati. But if you do not want to give me an address without Ibu, so you can just call me at the first name. Okay, so point number 2 is about age, or maybe you can also mention about the date or place of birth, so it is very formal actually. Okay, point number 4 is about the address. Of course, if we introduce also, somebody else wants to know about our address. And the address can be complete address, or your house address, or maybe office address, or school address. So there are so many addresses actually. Okay, and then number 5 is your nationality, where which nation you were born. Okay, and then the last is about phone number. Okay, your phone number as usual. And then the last is about occupation or job or profession. I want to remind you that student is not an occupation. Occupation means profession. What we call profession is the activity that you do every day, and then sometime, and not sometime, it always make money. So if you make money from doing something, that means that you are having a profession. For me, for example, I have a profession as a teacher, because I do teaching every day. Okay, from Monday to Friday, and I get money from this job. So I can say that I have a profession. So I have an occupation, but because you are a student, so you do not have any profession anymore. So you have to study. Study very hard, so next time you can have your profession. It means that you can make money from what you are competent. Okay, so there are some ways, and I believe that you are very familiar of how asking about personal information. For example, number 1, it is very common in your class, for example, because you will be in your class with the same persons, with the same classmates for 1 year. So it is necessary for you to introduce yourself to your friends, so that your friends will be able to call you every day, because calling someone's name should be the best one, for example. Or you can ask, what would you like I call you? Okay, So it is better than we call somebody else with a part of the name that she or he doesn't like. Okay, or you can say, what is yours, or what is your name? And then about point number 2, about age, you can say, oh, you can ask, how old are you? Okay, then date and place of birth, something like that, so you can see by yourself. And then asking about personal information, nationality, phone number, and then occupation. Okay, and then in the occupation, usually there are many types of questions that can be used in asking about occupation. So number 1, so you can ask, what do you do? What do you do? Okay, and then number 2, what is your job? Or what are you? And then the question number 3 usually makes the students very confusing. Okay, what are you? Kalau dalam bahasa Indonesia, kamu apa? But in English, what are you means, what is your job? Okay, keep in mind. Okay, good. And then the last thing that you can share, if you are familiar with your friends, I mean, you are going to be in the classroom for 1 year, so you share the teachers, you share the classroom, and share so many things with your classmate. So you can give more information when you are going to tell about your personal identity. So you can come from the first name, address, and something else, and then at the last is about your hobby. Okay, so the question is, here, what is your hobby, for example? What is your hobby? That it is sometimes one person has more than one hobby, like me, for example. If you are asking about my hobbies, so I have a lot of hobbies. One of them is reading, for example. The second, why my hobby is reading? Because I am a teacher. Okay, so in English context, if you ask about hobby, so to make sure that you pay attention to what the person are speaking, so you have to comment. For example, what is your hobby? And then if the answer is, oh, my hobby is driving, for example, and then you could not go to the next question. Okay, so you have to ask about why your hobby is driving, for example. So when you ask me why your hobby is driving, and then I will answer, oh, I like to see so many sceneries, actually natural scenery, or I want to have vacation or journey or something else. And then how do you drive? And then usually because this is an open-ended question, so the answer can be everything. It can be, I drive very fast, or I drive very carefully, or I drive with my driver or somebody else. Okay, and then questions about hobby. Okay, like I told you that hobby can be so many, not only one. So one of my hobbies is about driving, and then reading because I am a teacher, and then number 3 is watching movie. Yeah, because I'm an English teacher, so one of my hobbies is watching movie, and then I love it very much, watching movies, especially movies of action movie, because action movie sometimes makes me very enthusiastic, and then very happy, and also very motivated. I hate horror movies because it scares me. Okay, but some people maybe like to watch horror movie, and some other doesn't. Okay, you can see like that about personal information, and then asking about that matter, it depends on the context. Do you know what I mean by the context? Okay, I will explain about the different contexts, maybe different points of introduction. Okay, if I am speaking in front of a seminar, for example, so I must give my personal details very very detailed. For example, it is not only about the name and address, but because in a seminar, the audience want to know about my background of education. So if the question, why are you able to speak in front of the audience, and then the audience are teachers, for example. So of course my audience wants to know my background of education. So in this context, I have to tell them about my background education. So I dare to speak in front of the teacher because I have good education background. So it will be different if I am speaking in front of elementary or junior high or senior high students. So maybe I do not need to introduce my background of education, okay? And then because the audience go back to the seminar, okay, because I am in front of the adult audience, so I also, and it is wiser to mention my status, okay? So because we are not going to have bad sides of introduction, so usually it is wiser for me to introduce my family, okay? So it can be about my family, my children, and the hobbies of my children, and then what do I usually spend my time with my children. So it is different context. But if you are introducing in front of your classmates, okay, usually the points are about your name, and then about your address, or maybe phone number, or something else that very common in introducing to your classmates. So do not need it is not necessary for you to introduce family, okay? Yeah, so in the last point of our lesson today, at the end of the PowerPoint, usually we also have what we call cultural awareness. So I tell you, my students, here, when you are learning English or learning any languages, usually you are not merely means semata-mata, you see, you are not merely learned about the grammar, about the vocabulary, the meaning, but deep behind the language that you learn, there is a cultural awareness. Means that if you learn English, you do not merely study or learn about the language, but you also study about the culture. Okay, let's take an example. If I watch an action movie, for example, it is about cowboy. Do you know cowboy? Yeah, it is a very old version of West movie. Okay, so when you see, or when I see or watch, exactly you have to use the word watch, because watch is deeper. Watch has deeper meaning than see. Okay, in the word of watch means that you aware. You really pay attention to the movie. Okay, pay attention. You are witnessing. Menyaksikan, menjadi saksi of the movie. Okay, so when you watch a movie, for example, a cowboy movie, okay, so you learn how Westerners, especially adults, especially men or males in the Western country there, in the movie, you will learn that in that context, every male usually has a gun. Okay, usually has a gun. That's the point. The first point that you have to learn in a cultural awareness. So it seems that very easy for Westerners to have guns. Okay, so you can compare with Indonesian culture. Okay, so in the Western culture, in the Western country, male is easily having a gun, and then how they use their gun, okay, their guns, it seems that it is very rude. For example, if you compare the culture of Indonesian and their culture, okay, So in the movie, for example, it seems that everything can be easily copied with artinya mudah diselesaikan by using the gun. So killing somebody is as easy as killing a hen, for example. Hen, hen is the mother of a chicken, you see. So hen is ayam betina. Okay, but in our culture, it is not practiced, something like that. Okay, so it is one of the example how cultural awareness is learned. Okay, and then if we go to the PowerPoint, so we can learn that in English we use a full name or a family name. Okay, use a full name first. Use a full name, first name or short name without a title. So it is the same way with what I told you before. So if you want to use an address means Bapak, Ibu, Tante or something else. So yeah, if you say Ibu in Bahasa Indonesia, you can say Ibu Puji. But in English, you could not do that. So you have to use Mrs. Saraswati, something like that. So, but if you are my friend, so you do not use the address Ibu, but you can call me with my first name. Hi, Puji, something like that. So this is the culture that you should learn, what we call by cultural awareness. Point number 2. In Indonesia, people tend to address a person by using the first name. Okay, this is what I told you before. Okay, do you have any question? No question? Okay, thank you. This is what I like to share this morning. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, so you can ask me later. Thank you.